Based on everything you know about Cardano price action, risk score, and cycle data, tell me when you think is the best time and price to place my largest sell of Cardano this bull cycle. Send. This is going out to Zero, our autonomous AI in our intelligence system. While Zero is typing over here, I want to show you a couple things. This is Ali charts over here on X. Cardano ADA is mirroring the price structure of its last cycle, but unfolding more slowly. It looks like we're at the very start of an explosive move. Check this out. So he's comparing this structured move and this breakout area, pre-bull market area for ADA to where we are right now. We've been doing something incredibly similar, and it is very true. It is just more slowly. The structure here on this chart compared to pre-bull last cycle is insane. It has been more slowly, but I just think that's because the business cycle, this cycle, is just lagging in terms of what happened last cycle. The money printers, interest rates coming down. These are things we're anticipating now, and it's taken a little bit longer this time. This video very much focuses on taking profits, but for me, I've been thinking very much about what's that take profit area. Maybe you scale out, ladder out along the way, little here, little here, little here. What's that big area, that big exit? What price is that for ADA? And this is what I'm talking to Zero about in our intelligence system. Curious to see what Zero says over here, and we'll dissect that. But first, before we do, besides that chart that we just looked at, I want to lay a little groundwork in terms of altcoins, altcoin season. Again, this is a zoomed out video. ADA is at like 80 cents right now. It could dip to the 60s. This is for the macro person, the macro ADA holder that is thinking kind of similar to me. If we get the bull move, what does an exit look like? How can I be prepared? I'm nonstop thinking about this. I have the intelligence system. This is exactly what I built it for. But just because I have it doesn't even mean I am already like locked in. I already know exactly what I'm doing. I'm still monitoring very closely. But altcoin season. First, Bitcoin was pumping, sucking liquidity from ETH and alts. Now ETH is pumping, sucking liquidity out of Bitcoin and alts. The next phase will be alts sucking liquidity from Bitcoin and Ethereum. And he's posting this others chart versus altcoin or versus Ethereum. So every altcoin versus Ethereum. You can see others falling versus Ethereum. And then 2021 alt season kicked off. Right now, something very similar is happening. Alts should start exploding in a maximum of 3 months from here. It could be earlier, but that's the latest estimate. If Ethereum can pump 3x in 4 months, alts will pump 10x to 50x easily. Let's go see what Zero said about ADA and selling ADA, what price. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe on the way in. Hit that like button. If you're not in this system, if you like what you're about to see, I'm going to go through Zero. I'm going to look at risk models, exit planner, get into our trial. It's been very successful. People are coming in. They're trying our system. If you don't like it, just cancel before the 7 days. But if you're getting into our data, if you're setting your strategies, I think you're going to like it. All right. What's Zero saying over here? So, by the way, Zero is trained on all of our data, proprietary risk models, all of that. But also, if you have your strategies built back there, your exit planners built, it sees that. It will reference that. It will bring context around that. So I basically said, ignore my current risk strategy and give me your opinion on price range for biggest sell and likely timing. So it gave a nice answer, and I kind of want to just go through this with you. All right. Given your mid to high risk tolerance and macro investor mindset, here's a framework for considering the largest sell, timing, and price. 550 to 750. So let's see the rationale behind here. The range aligns with historical cycle trends where ADA typically peaks at 10 to 20x from bear market lows. It also accounts for and it's basically saying 25 cents to 25 cents in 2023 to 24. It also accounts for the psychological resistance levels and market dynamics seen in prior bull cycles. Rationale for 750 ceiling. Market cap considerations at $7.50. ADA's market cap would be $270 billion, a plausible peak given its historical dominance during bull runs. Here's what's interesting. If you go to the Cardano chart, a lot of you might be like, come on, I want $10. Come on, I want $15. Nobody knows. Zero doesn't know. But Zero is bringing in a lot of data into play in relation to this next bull move for Cardano. Now, what's interesting, though, is we talk a lot about the $5 to $10 range up here. And so Zero is referencing basically like the middle of that range. This range is just a very realistic target for ADA for this bull move. It could go lower. It could go higher. But back to Zero, Zero is saying the timing could be Q2, Q3. Historically, altcoins like ADA peak 3 to 6 months after Bitcoin hits cycle high. If Bitcoin peaks late 2025, ADA could follow in mid 2026. That's interesting. And I really do actually think, I don't think Zero's identifying business cycles and what's going on there with global liquidity, but I actually think all of that plays into this potential 2026 swing high. A lot of people think it's game over in a couple of months, but I think there's a very strong possibility that we could go into next year. This timeline aligns with past cycles where speculative altcoin mania accelerates during Bitcoin's consolidation phase. And then it's considering macro and ETF flows with spot Bitcoin Ethereum ETFs live, institutional capital flowing into crypto. ADA's peak coincide with broader retail euphoria and FOMO-driven alt season. This is important, very important. ADA's risk score nearing 85 to 90, extreme greed territory, historically signifies overextension and a potential local cycle top. Use CCVI's risk model as a real-time confirmation tool to validate exits within your target price range. So no matter if it's $7.50, right? And actually, let me go in the exit planner real quick. I have just kind of this demo account going at 100,000 ADA, 20 cents average buy. I have a couple sells there, $1.55, $3. I want to add now that Zero gave us a target. And basically, this is real time, like how to use the system. And now that I'm actually doing this, I don't think Zero gave me an amount, right? So let's say if there was 100K ADA in this plan to sell, how much would you sell at? I'm just kind of curious. I have no idea what it's going to say, but let's see. Price 650 to 750, and then I'll go plug this into the exit planner. And then once it's plugged into the exit planner, though, I want to do the more important thing, which is identify the risk model and talk through that. So if you're targeting 750 as the largest sell, here's a potential approach. So, okay, I was curious of the number it would give, but 40% sell, so it'd be 40,000 ADA at 750. 50% sell would be 50,000 ADA at 750. Why not 100%? Market unpredictability, exposure to upside. Good. Yes, that is true. So 40 to 50% is what Zero is suggesting. So I can actually just go in here and I'll just put 40% at 750 and let's save this. So there's our exit strategy, just price-wise, speculative. Notice what Zero said up here if we go up a little bit. Zero said, ADA's risk nearing 85 to 90 is this area where historically signifies overextension. And if you go to the risk model now, look at last cycle, right? There we're hitting in the 80s, 88, and then the second swing high, mid-80s again, like 84. Even 2 cycles ago, notice it actually went higher than that. We went into the 90s, 94. But that 80 area is absolutely time, no joke. For me, this is just me. This is how I'm looking at this. People can look at this in any way they want. But for me, absolutely taking profits in the 80s. And I think even scaling out sooner along the way is 100% in play. Because again, if you go look at this speculative setup that we have, and then we're going to talk about risk mode, but $1.55 for somebody, if you've been accumulating at, in the 20s, or your average is even across cycles at 20 cents. But even if in the bear market low, you've just been accumulating here. If you want to sell some at $1.55, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So again, laddering out is fine. But going back to the exit planner, there's a few scenarios in here. Maybe you want to set up like 10 different exits from $1.55 to $7.50, right? Either way, whatever you do back here, it will show you your total gains, your return on investment, and how much ADA that you have left in the scenario. But from there, this almost doesn't matter. And this is kind of partly, I think, what Zero was saying. You have to look at the risk score. You have to use the risk model as a real-time confirmation tool to validate exits. Because at the end of the day, everybody, let's say it gets to $1.55. Who knows when? Who knows how? Who knows what it would look like? But if you go over to risk mode, right? And I should have saved that, but I didn't. But you go to risk mode, right? What if, and here's our risk heat map within ADA. What if ADA somehow makes its way to $1.55 and somehow, because the way it got there, the risk score is at like 40 still, right? And you haven't sold any yet. You might just be, and you're still evaluating all of the macroeconomic data. You're evaluating where we are in the cycles, sentiment, everything going on. But it's been a very weird cycle with the slow, higher high, higher low growth. I'm not sure it'll be at $1.50 sitting at a 40 risk score. I doubt it will, but my point is, if it was, you might reevaluate taking profit that soon. And you might be like, you know what? Okay, I'm going to push that to $2. But either way, you got your price mode back there, but then you're going to want to go in here and you're going to want to set your levels, not to just get alerted for prices being hit, but for risk scores being hit. So for me, when I'm looking at a risk model for ADA, right, here's 64. I feel like 60s is like the beginning of the move. And then we're cruising up to the 70s. 70s could be a nice area to start laddering out, starting to set alerts. And you can do that back here. And we're actually right now working on text alerts. Right now we have notifications via email. Soon we should have text live and deployed pretty soon. And that's just going to be game changer. This is something that as a user, I'm excited for. But you start setting these up and then you combine it with price mode, and all these speculative prices, even at zero, is kind of putting out there, right? But even with this, at zero saying, would you like help designing a step-by-step exit strategy around this plan? And you can say yes, or you could just push back a little bit. You could just ask, why'd you say this? What about this? You know, and just start brainstorming, strategizing through the scenario. But it's interesting that zero is saying $7.50. This is something that I personally need to think more about, the big sell. It's all going to be different for all of us, everybody. But this is something I'm working myself up to, that plan, because this is all speculation. Even with AI that has access to insane data, it's very helpful to brainstorm with zero, by the way. But when things are happening, no matter how they are happening, right? Like your position in not just crypto, but in life is different than mine. We're all different, right? So like taking profits along this path, if this were to play out, will look absolutely different for so many people. It might work very well for somebody just to go take insane amount of profits in the twos and then hold some left for the $7 to $10 range. It's going to be different for everybody. But the reason I built this system is so that no matter what you're thinking, and you might have a very solid plan in your head, tracking risk and risk score is going to be so key. Because if you look at this area that we just looked at in this post from Molly Charts, right? Similar area. Notice where it is, right? ADA right now is in a very similar area here as it was pre-bull market back here. If you go look at our risk model for ADA, it's sitting at a 40, right? So if sitting at a 40, and in this area that he was pointing at on this chart, it's basically in the 40s. There's a 44. It was the pre-bull market number. And the reason why I'm urgently thinking about this, and I know I've been urgently thinking about this for a while, this is just because, you know, even 3 months ago, ADA could have just exploded and I want to be ready. But if we get this move or something similar, we're all just going to want to be ready, everybody. It's the longer it doesn't happen, the more unbelievable it's kind of like becoming, right? Like, is this ever even going to break? Are we even going to get a bull market? I get that feeling. I totally understand. But that doesn't mean just because you're thinking there's not even going to be a bull market, you're just not going to plan. I'm the opposite. I'm absolutely planning. I'm planning for all scenarios, but I'm planning for a risk score from the 40s, boom, 60s, 70s, 80s. I want that plan locked in. We implemented zero. This is phase 1 beta, everybody. And I think it's incredibly powerful, but we have more coming in relation to zero and what it's capable of. But I think it's very helpful in terms of brainstorming. Like you might be like, man, I just want to brainstorm this. Like it's so helpful just to talk with a buddy and brainstorm exits, but you literally have an AI trained on all of our data back here. You can brainstorm. It is not perfect. It is absolutely not perfect. It'll even make mistakes. You have to be careful with AI, but it's just good to think out loud, to brainstorm, to ask picky questions in relation to the data that's back here. This is a completely data-driven system. I'm excited about it. I wanted to kind of walk through this thought exercise with you because this is where my head's at right now. I'm trying to think about the big area on the charts to place the big sell. And I think at the end of the day, since we don't know when or what a risk score will look like in the very kind of overbought territories on this chart, I think it's very difficult to just absolutely lock in the plan, right? I think it's good to have the plan, but monitor the risk models closely as we progress through the cycle. And that's what I'm going to be doing, because imagine being in this cycle last cycle, you finally we're pumping, we're moving, and we're hitting an 80. You just want to know. You want to know that data this time around. We go from 40 to 80. You better believe our members are going to probably be getting alerted in the system. I know I'm going to be getting alerted. So I wanted to share this with you. I'm excited to present the system to you a little bit more. I know people are like, oh, he's just selling a system. And you're absolutely right. I've waited almost 8 years doing YouTube stuff to think of something that could be valuable to build a business with, and something I get value of and build this with. And I'm excited about everybody. So go try it out. Go try it out. Get in the system, plan, talk to Zero. If there's any kinks, if you notice anything, we have a feedback area. Just let us know. We're on it. Alessandro and Axel, they've just been killing it with the system. We're implementing new features. So let's see. Let me know your thoughts in terms of Zero, $7.50. And by the way, if you ask Zero again, it could give a different answer with a different perspective of data, which is very interesting, I think. It's not always going to give you the same answer. As you know, AI is kind of like that, but it really gets you thinking in relation to planning. So these are my thoughts on Cardano. I'm waiting for the breakout. As we get some price action, whether it's a dip or a breakout, I will be updating on these altcoin charts. So hit the subscribe, hit the like. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.